Hello and welcome to the Mansfield Town Shirts YouTube channel, where today we are going to try and predict the League 1 table for 25-26. Have I put your team to finish in those coveted automatic promotion places, or have I unfortunately got you to finish in the bottom four? There's only one way to find out. Let's get the video. So then, we are going to start with bottom of the table, and this is a reasonably difficult thing to do in League 1 for this season coming up, because there's a lot of decent teams in there, and the four teams coming up, albeit it was a much weaker League 2 last season than it was probably the season before when the likes of Wrexham, Stockport, Mansfield came up. It's been a difficult one, but I am unfortunately going to go for AFC Wimbledon. I just don't know if they've got enough goals. They've lost a goalkeeper, of course, Owen Goodman, who was superb for them last season. And I just don't see them scoring enough goals and winning enough games to stay up. But it was incredibly difficult, and I think any of the bottom four, even any of the bottom six in reality, could probably have taken this spot. So sorry, Dons fans. You won the mascot competition. If you haven't seen that video, it's worth a watch. It's a bit of fun. They won that, but unfortunately I've got you bottom in this list. So then, to finish second bottom, I've unfortunately gone for Burton Albion. And I know they always seem to survive. They always seem to pull it out of the bag. This season they've lost a couple of key players. They've lost a goalkeeper, which I think is a big blow as well. So for me, I think this season they may end up going down. But as they've done every other season, everyone writes them off and then they end up staying up. So that wouldn't surprise me either. I just hope they don't play very well this weekend as they play Mansfield. But yeah, unfortunately, Brewers, I've got you in the bottom four. Third bottom then, still in the relegation zone, I've gone for Exeter City. I just don't see them having enough this season. They had a poor end to last season, comfortably beaten by my club Mansfield on the final day of the season. I haven't seen enough necessarily in the recruitment to think that they'll finish outside the bottom four. For me, they've got a very small budget, which we know about. They do sometimes defy logic and have survived, of course, before. But for me, this time, I think it's a one step too far, and I've got them in the bottom four. So then the club making the final position in the bottom four, I've got as being Northampton Town under Kevin Nolan. Again, I didn't really see enough of them to make me think that they've got enough to survive. They didn't particularly score a lot of goals or create a lot of chances last season, and could have very easily gone down last season towards the end. And I think losing a couple of key players as well hasn't helped in the summer. So Cobblers fans, unfortunately, I've got you in the bottom four. Just above the dreaded drop then, I have got Port Vale, who have just been promoted, of course, from League 2. I think they've just about got enough to survive. Didn't necessarily have them straight away as my first thought to go down. So I've got Port Vale just making it outside the bottom four, and I'm sure they'd probably be happy with that. As me as a Mansfield Town fan was last season that we survived, I'm sure Port Vale would be happy to do the same. So then in 19th place we have another team who have just been promoted from League 2, who would again I think be just happy to survive next season, is Doncaster Rovers, who of course won the League 2 title last season. I don't see them necessarily getting down. I can see them being in a little bit of a scrap towards the bottom four, but I think they've probably just about got enough. Signed a couple of good players, including a good player, Matt Pearson, as well in defence. So yeah, for me, I think they've just about got enough. In 18th place then, I have my beloved Mansfield Town. We finished 17th last season, so I know I've put us to finish one place below. I think we may get more points, but I think we'll be in and around that sort of 16th to 18th area, which I'd be happy with as long as we stay up for another season and hopefully improve on the targets of points that we had last season. I'll be extremely happy. We've made some really good signings. The likes of Luke Bolton, I think, is a really big signing for us, along with Liam Roberts, the goalkeeper, and Ryan Sweeney in defence as well. So I think we've made some really, really good signings, and I'm very excited actually about this season. So I'll do another video about Mansfield's season separately, but yeah, I've got us to survive reasonably comfortably, I think. Up next then, in 17th and completing the list of teams who are just going to finish, in my opinion, just above the bottom four, and that is Stevenage. So Stevenage last season were okay. They finished in and around the sort of mid-table positions, and I've got them sort of finishing comfortably there again. I have read that a lot of people have tipped them for relegation, but for me, they're an established League 1 team, and I see them probably just about having enough to survive again in League 1. It wouldn't surprise me if they were in any of those sort of four positions that I've just showed. I think they'll be in and around that area. So I've included this next team in the relegation scrap section, albeit I think any of those five teams could be in and around that bottom 4, as well as pushing higher up into mid-table, and that is Bradford, who just promoted, of course, on the final day of last season from League Two. Some good signings, got a good experienced manager, so I think they'll be in and around that area. I've got them just to finish a little bit higher than my team, Mansfield and Stevenage, but I think those 5 teams, in my opinion, are interchangeable, so probably could have put them anywhere in that section. Just a quick one to say thank you very much for the likes and views on recent videos, as well as comments, which are massively appreciated, as well as some people who have subscribed to the channel as we aim for our next milestone. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the video. So first team into mid-table is Peterborough United. And again, a lot of people have tipped them to be in the bottom 4. I just can't see it myself. I think some of the younger players who maybe were a bit more inexperienced last season will have a little bit more experience. Yes, they've lost some of their bigger names, but it doesn't always seem to affect Peterborough. They always seem to bring in players from obscurity and turn them into really good players at this level. So for me, I think they'll finish mid-table, a couple of places maybe higher than they did last season. I don't see them being in a relegation scrap, as they sort of got dragged into at the end of last season. I don't see them being in that scrap myself. I think they'll be in mid-table comfortably somewhere. So the next team is Rotherham United, who again were very underwhelming last season, finished lower mid-table. I think they will finish around mid-table again this season. Got them to finish higher than some of those newly promoted sides that we spoke about. I think Hampshire was sort of trying to turn things around towards the end of last season. Had a thrilling game against Mansfield towards the end, which was a great game to be at. I see them being mid-table. Rotherham, I think they'll be somewhere in and around there. Maybe playoff push at a very, very push, but yeah, for me, mid-table. I also think it's really important to add, I have no more knowledge than anybody else on this subject. I just happen to like doing YouTube videos, so people will go, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're probably right. I probably don't. Up next then, the team with the pie as a mascot, as we found out in one of our previous videos, Wigan Athletic. I've got Wigan, put them in the right place there. I've got Wigan to finish a little bit higher than Rotherham, in 13th place. Again, a team that I think will be in and around mid-table, potentially could maybe push for the playoffs. They've also got a new manager in Ryan Lowe, who knows this level well, and they've also signed Paul Mullin, so maybe they could push onto the playoffs, but for now I've got them to finish mid-table. So I debated a little bit this next team. A few I'd seen had fancied them higher. They've made some good signings. I think Horsfall, I think, is a really good signing. Jordan Brown as well. But I've put Blackpool in mid-table. I think you could make an argument for them chasing the playoffs, certainly. But I felt there were teams slightly ahead of them in my uneducated mind about that. So I've put Blackpool for this season in mid-table, but it wouldn't surprise me if they pushed on a little bit higher than that. So into our playoff chasers then, and I have gone for Wycombe Wanderers in 11th place. Of course, they massively tailed off towards the end of last season and should really have been promoted automatically, but they were caught by Wrexham, who've gone up to the Championship instead, and Wycombe will really rue what happened with Bloomfield halfway through the season. That, it really was disastrous for their season, unfortunately. But they've still got a good team, and it wouldn't surprise me if they weren't in and around the playoffs. I don't see them pushing for automatics again this season, but I've put them to finish upper mid-table and just outside the playoffs. The next team then into this list of teams vying for the playoff positions, I have put Lincoln City. I think Lincoln, perennial team, it seems to be just sort of mid-table outside the playoffs. I think Sonny Bradley is a great signing for them this season. They have lost other players as well. I don't think they'll be in the playoffs, but I think they'll be in and around that sort of upper mid-table, sort of just outside the playoff pack with Wycombe Wanderers as well. So, yeah, I think Lincoln are a really good side though at this level. And a sort of club that Mansfield Town aspire to be at the minute in terms of pushing slowly up the League One table. So, yeah, we'll see how they go, but I've got them just outside the playoffs. This next one was a really difficult one, and that is Barnsley. They've still, as of this video, got Keeler done. I don't know where I've heard that story before. But they have signed David McGoldrick. Don't know whether how good he'll be at this level. Obviously, he was outstanding for Notts County last season in League Two. So Barnsley could finish anywhere really in this list. It wouldn't surprise me if they finished mid-table. It also wouldn't surprise me if they managed to get in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think anywhere sort of lower playoffs down to mid-table is a distinct possibility for Barnsley this season. depending again of who they manage to keep Keeler Dunn, I think that'll make a massive difference because he is a super, super talent and certainly should be playing higher than League One. So yeah, I think it's an interesting one, Barnsley, but I've put them to finish ninth. So then the first of two teams that I have outside the playoffs, the first one being Leyton Orient, of course, beaten finalist in the playoffs last season against Charlton. I have no doubts that Leyton Orient, in my head, will be in and around those playoffs, maybe just outside. They sort of came into the playoffs late last season, fantastic run under Richie Wellens, and I can see them doing similar again. I can certainly see them being in and around the playoffs. So I've put them in 8th place. I think it's a tough league this year. Of course, it is most years in League One. But I've got them to just about miss out on the playoffs. So I feel like this team are very difficult to place, and that is Cardiff City. I've gone for Cardiff just outside the playoffs. You could make an argument for first, probably down to where I've put them. I don't see them finishing any lower. There has been a lot of turmoil at the club, a lot of new managers, of course, issues with the owners as well. But if they can get the crowd behind them, it's a big old stadium there. I think they'll do okay. I wouldn't be surprised anywhere between first and sort of 8th. I've put them in 7th. I think that's where they'll finish. They might sneak in the playoffs if some of the teams that I've put higher up don't necessarily have great seasons, but they'll be in and around the playoff action, in my opinion. So then we enter the exciting part then, the playoffs. And the first team in the playoffs, I've gone for Bolton Wanderers. And I feel like teams always put these in the top 2 or in the playoffs, and it just doesn't happen. They've been in this league for a while now in League One. But I fancy them under Schumacher. I think he's a great manager. I think I fancy them to get the playoffs. Yeah, I think he's a good enough manager to get them there. Some good signings as well. I fancy Bolton to get in the playoffs this year. So I've predicted them to finish 6th. But it wouldn't surprise me if they did miss out and some of the teams below maybe took that spot. But I think they'll be there or thereabouts. Talking of turmoil, Reading in 5th is where I've predicted them to finish. They were a really strong side last year, despite all of the absolute rubbish going off where people were predicting them to finish in the bottom 4. And they did really well to finish where they did last season. I would expect them to be in the playoffs this season, I think. I think they can go one better than they did last season. Again, another team that you probably wouldn't necessarily be that surprised they finished slightly outside, but I've got them in my head to finish 5th. And I think they've made some good signings as well. I think they'll be in the playoffs. So this next team then in 4th are widely tipped by many to get promoted. They've obviously spent money again. But I've got Huddersfield Town to finish inside the playoffs. I'm moving in the right place there. I've got Huddersfield Town to finish inside the playoffs, and I genuinely think that's where they're going to finish. It wouldn't surprise me if they finish in the top 2. Again, they made some really good signings. Spent some money as well, of course, but they've got a new manager in Lee Grant who is untested completely. So we'll see how that goes, but it wouldn't surprise me with the resources and the when the fans get behind them down there or up there. I think they'll do well, and I can see them finish inside the playoffs quite comfortably. I debated these 3 for quite a while. Luton Town, who I'm going to put in the playoffs, are tipped by a lot of people to finish in the top 2, and you can see why. Still got parachute payments, I believe, from the Premier League. They've got Matt Bloomfield, who was doing sensationally, of course, at Wickham last season until he left halfway through and they capitulated. Can definitely see them being in that top 3. I've got them to finish 3rd, but again, it wouldn't surprise me if they're in the top 2. They've got the budget, they've got the players, it seems like got the manager as well. But yeah, I've got them to just miss out, but it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't finish in the top 2. But yeah, 3rd for me. So then the top 2 teams, and in 2nd place I have gone for Stockport County. I love what Stockport County are doing. Their meteoric rise from the National League North, following an absolute fall from where they were previously in the Championship. There's been nothing sort of sensational, and is really the story. It's not really the Wrexham story that we should be telling. It's the Stockport one. They've done incredibly well. They were so close in the playoffs as well. You know, missing chances in the last minute. It was agonising, I guess, if you're a Stockport County fan. I just think they'll go one better this season. I know they've lost a couple of key defenders. They've replaced potentially some goals with new signings. I know they lost Olifo, but they brought in Mothersill as well, so potentially that might counteract that. I think they're going to get promoted. I really do. I think they're a really good side. There are a lot of sides below that you can sort of argue to and against whether they'll be up there or not. I don't think you can argue that with Stockport. I'll probably do a video in a year's time when they finish bottom, but I've got them to finish in the top 2, and I think that's where they'll finish. So then I've taken a gamble, and I've gone for a team that most other predictions I've seen have not put in the position I'm about to put them in, but I've gone for first place to Plymouth Argyle. They're normally great in League One. They're a yo-yo team now. They seem to be coming. I think Tom Cleverley is a shrewd appointment. I know they lost their manager, of course, to Schalke. You can't really blame him, can you? But I think they're going to be top of this table at the end of the season. I think they've got the resources. They've signed some good players, albeit some of them untested. And they have lost some players as well, of course. But for me, I think the consistency over the season, I think they're going to be in the top 2, and I have put them slightly above Stockport. Again, as I've said before, I'm not Mystic Meg. Some of these will probably, I'm sure, be wrong, completely wrong, and it wouldn't surprise me if Plymouth were one of them. But for now, enjoy it, Plymouth fans. I have put you top of the league. So that brings the video to an end, where I have attempted, and maybe badly, to predict the League One season in 25-26. Apologies if I've either put your team right near the bottom, or I've given you false hope by putting you near the top. I'm sure it'll all change once we kick off this weekend. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.